Welcome to Southwest Yard and Garden. I'm John White. With me today is Lloyd Davis, and Lloyd is a master gardener here in Doña County, and Lloyd has some plant problems that have come in. Lloyd, what's our first one?
Well, here I have a branch off of a Bradford Pear from one of our neighbors. The question is, why is that pear so misshapen? The neighbor would like to eat pears, but it doesn't look as if she'll have a chance.
Okay. Well, one, if it's a Bradford pear, Bradford is not supposed to produce an edible pear. It's an ornamental pear. So this may be just a pear that happened to get pollinated, a flower that got pollinated, and it looks like it may have got hit by maybe a stink bug or something. It's pretty badly cat-faced. You can see the irregularities in the skin of it. It's not going to produce a good edible pear, so it really just needs to be pulled off. But some of these leaves do have some brown spots on it, and that's a sign of probably a blister mite, which is a little insect that gets on pears and causes those little dark brown spots on the leaf in between the veins. And so the tree probably does need to be treated for that. But as far as an edible pear, they really need a better variety.
That doesn't have very many leaves with brown spots. Would you treat it with so few leaves damaged?
Yeah, I'd probably go ahead and treat it. You can treat it with insecticide that is labeled for blister mite on pear.
Oh, that's interesting. I wasn't acquainted with the blister mite problem.
Okay.
Here we have the flower head from an onion plant. Some of our neighbors are picking these and in hopes to save the seed to grow onions next year. Can they do that?
They can do that. The head does need to mature off where the seed comes out, and but one of the problems is you don't know how the plant was crossed. So as far as saving the seed may not be the same as the onion bulb that this flower stalk came off of.
Yeah.
So a true hybridizer would make a particular cross and know exactly what the cross is. So, but it probably will produce some kind of onions, just whether it's going to be bolt resistant and have all the other qualities that we would in a hybrid onion. So I probably wouldn't waste my time, but if they want to experiment.
Yes. Well, as with most hybrids, you never know what you're going to get when you plant the seeds.
That's right.
This tomato, John, is from my garden. I planted these in March in water walls like you recommended.
Okay.
I think you recommended that. They grew beautifully. I've been picking tomatoes now for about a month. But I wonder why this one is green on the top and red on the rest of the tomato. And I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to prevent those cracks.
Okay. As far as the green on the top, some of the cracking that's on the tomato, some of the horizontal cracking has probably interfered a little bit with some of the chemical reaction that's taken place as far as the maturity in the tomato. It doesn't look like it has any virus or anything, but it will be a little slower developing on the very top of the tomato, so this has probably slowed it up. As far as the cracking, some will be varietal, just by the variety of tomato, and these are the vertical cracks. The horizontal cracks are a heat crack, and so with our recent 90, 100 degree temperatures, probably you will see more of that, especially on the larger tomatoes. But when a tomato sizes and then it has a heavy rain or heavy irrigation, takes on a lot of extra water, a lot of times it will develop some cracks and just superficial cracks in the skin from taking on too much water. Looks like you might have a worm or something that also is trying to feed on this tomato.
It does look that way.
But a big part is probably just heat cracks on there. This little bit of cat facing on the bottom is probably something that happened to the ovary when the tomato was real young, still as a flower, and something damaged the ovary. But otherwise, it's edible tomato. Just clip away some of the growing area?
If you leave that in the kitchen for a couple of days before you eat it, that generally ripens up there
Yeah,
also.
give it a little sun.
Yeah. I'm sure that hole is an insect because I've got my bushes covered with nets so the birds won't eat them.
All right, good protection.
A neighbor gave me this sample from an artichoke plant. They wonder why those artichokes didn't get big enough to eat and why they've got a flower.
Okay. Well, the artichoke is a flower bud, so you like to harvest them as a bud. So once they've flowered, you've waited a little too long, but they do have a beautiful flower, and sometimes you know, the plant's prettier if you let it flower than it is harvesting artichokes.
Yeah.
But it does have a lot of insects that get on artichoke. This one had a double flower on it. It might be the competition between the two flowers. This one's much larger than the other one. You know, keeping them cut off if you are after artichokes, as far as an edible artichoke, you do want to, you know, if you've allowed them to flower, you need to go ahead and cut them off so new ones will keep coming on, because you don't want to keep more than one coming on. This one also has a side bud coming on that probably needs to be clipped off also. I noticed it had a ladybug pupil case on it, so I can feel some stickiness like there were some aphids on here at one time. So, but again, to get a little bit bigger heads on the artichoke, one of it is part variety and the other part is just keeping some of the older ones clipped off and managing the load that's on the plant. If it has a lot of artichokes on it, it may be too many for the plant to actually take care of all the artichokes. So you may want to thin some of them out, but if you've allowed them to bloom, you've gone too far as an edible artichoke. But they are a beautiful flower.
You think they surely had enough water? Could lack of water?
No, the leaves and everything look pretty good on it, so it's probably had enough water. It just may have had too much crop on it.
Yeah.
Okay, Lloyd, thank you very much for bringing some problems with us today, and we'll be right back.